June 23, 1942. Royal Air Force spotters at Pembrey Airfield in South Wales peered through binoculars as a sleek German fighter slipped out of the clouds, aligned with the runway, and began a calm, deliberate approach. Warning sirens should have shattered the air, anti-aircraft crews should have swung their guns into position, yet something about the descent felt unsettlingly wrong. The Focke-Wulf 190 settled gently onto the grass strip, rolled forward without hesitation, and came to rest near the control tower. The engine cut out, the canopy slid back, and Oberleutnant Armin Faber of Jägerschwader II climbed down, removed his leather helmet, and surveyed the unfamiliar airfield. Within seconds, the truth struck him with icy clarity. The aircraft parked nearby were not Messerschmitts, they were Spitfires, lined up beneath unmistakable British roundels. The uniforms racing toward him were not Luftwaffe gray, they were Royal Air Force blue. At that same moment, a realization rippled through British intelligence offices across southern England, like a surge of electricity through exposed wire. Germany's most dangerous fighter, the aircraft that had terrorized Allied pilots for months, the weapon believed almost untouchable in combat, had just been delivered intact to Britain. It arrived not through daring espionage or violent capture, but through a single navigational mistake over the English Channel. The intelligence value was staggering, yet what American test pilots would later uncover would reshape aerial combat for the rest of the war. For 8 relentless months, the Focke-Wulf 190 haunted Allied air crews across occupied Europe, first appearing over France in September 1941. From its earliest encounters, pilots sensed they were facing something fundamentally different. Squadron leader James Edgar Johnson, who would later become Britain's highest-scoring ace, encountered the aircraft in early 1942 and barely survived. It was faster than our Spitfire Mark V in level flight and in the dive, he later wrote, and it could outroll us completely. Its firepower was overwhelming, and for the first time in the war, Allied fighters were comprehensively outclassed. The numbers confirmed the fear. During the first half of 1942, RAF losses over France surged dramatically, as veteran pilots from the Battle of Britain were shot down by an aircraft they could not match. The Focke-Wulf could dive away from Spitfires, outroll them in close combat, and destroy them with 20mm explosive cannon fire. American pilots arriving in Britain with their P-47 Thunderbolts heard the warnings immediately. Do not turn fight the 190, do not try to outroll it, and never chase it into a dive. The list of what not to do grew longer by the week, while the list of effective counters remained terrifyingly short. Allied intelligence needed answers, and they needed them urgently. What made this aircraft so lethal? Where were its limits? And how could it be defeated? Those answers required examining a complete aircraft, yet every one shot down over Britain had been too badly damaged to study. Then Armin Faber made his catastrophic mistake. Before we continue, take a moment to share where you're watching from, and whether you'd heard this story before. Drop a comment below, let me know what surprised you most, and if you value this level of historical detail. If you enjoy deeply researched war stories like this, subscribing truly helps, and it makes the effort behind these stories worthwhile. Faber was no novice pilot. At just 21 years old, he had already claimed multiple aerial victories, and flew with Jägerschwader II, one of the Luftwaffe's elite fighter wings. On June 23, 1942, he was flying top cover for German bombers attacking coastal targets. The mission unfolded smoothly, until the return flight across the Channel. During aggressive maneuvering against British fighters, Faber became disoriented. Clouds masked the coastline, the sun distorted his sense of direction, and adrenaline narrowed his judgment. When he broke through the overcast and saw green countryside and an airfield below, his mind filled in the rest. He believed he was over France, descending toward a familiar Luftwaffe base. In reality, he was over Wales, lining up perfectly on RAF Pembrey. Combat disorientation was more common than militaries liked to admit. High-speed flight, violent maneuvers, and oxygen deprivation often stripped pilots of spatial awareness. Faber had unknowingly reversed course during the dogfight and never realized it. When he saw the Spitfires after landing, Faber tried desperately to restart the engine and escape. He never got the chance. Royal Air Force personnel surrounded the aircraft within moments, and he was taken into custody. British intelligence officers stood frozen, staring at a pristine Focke-Wulf 190A, sitting untouched on their runway. At RAF headquarters, the reaction bordered on disbelief. Air Chief Marshal Sholto Douglas immediately ordered the aircraft transferred to the Royal Aircraft Establishment at Farnborough. Every bolt, cable, and control system was to be examined, measured, and documented. Within 48 hours, Britain's top aviation engineers began their inspection. What they found explained everything Allied pilots had experienced in combat. The Focke-Wulf was not elegant like the Spitfire, it was brutally practical. Its BMW 801 radial engine produced 1,700 horsepower, far more than the Spitfire Mark V. Yet raw power was not its greatest strength. The aircraft's true advantage lay in its roll rate. It could snap from one bank to the other faster than any Allied fighter in the sky. In combat, that speed translated directly into dominance. Spitfires simply could not follow its rapid rolling maneuvers. Captain Eric Brown, Britain's most experienced test pilot, flew the captured aircraft extensively. The ailerons were light at all speeds, he reported, and the aircraft responded almost instantly. The Spitfire demanded strength and finesse, while the Focke-Wulf responded almost to thought alone. Its firepower was equally shocking. The 190 carried 4 20mm cannons and 2 machine guns, delivering catastrophic damage in seconds. A 2-second burst equaled what a Spitfire could produce in 10. The wing-mounted weapons converged tightly, creating devastating accuracy at combat range. Its dive performance explained its constant escapes. Heavier weight and clean aerodynamics allowed it to outdive anything the RAF possessed. Pilots who followed simply watched the German fighter pull away below them. Yet testing also revealed weaknesses, and here lay the true strategic gold. The radial engine struggled above 20,000 feet, suffering power loss and overheating. The Spitfire's Merlin engine, by contrast, thrived at altitude. In sustained turning combat, the heavier Focke-Wulf bled energy more quickly. American engineers uncovered another critical flaw. At very high speeds, the controls became dangerously heavy. Pulling out of steep dives required immense physical effort, creating a brief but deadly vulnerability. These discoveries reshaped Allied tactics almost overnight. Bulletins spread through RAF squadrons, and American pilots were invited to Farnborough. In August 1942, U.S. Army Air Force's test pilots arrived to study Germany's prized fighter. Major Cass Hoff filed a report that reached every unit preparing for combat in Europe. Below 20,000 feet, the 190 wins, he wrote, but above 25,000, we hold the advantage. When P-47 units entered combat in 1943, altitude became doctrine. Bomber escorts flew high, fighter sweeps climbed higher, and German pilots were forced into thin air. Engineers at Wright Field modified American aircraft based on lessons learned from the captured fighter. Most importantly, the myth of invincibility was shattered. By late 1943, kill ratios shifted decisively. Allied pilots no longer made fatal mistakes, and German losses climbed steadily. The captured aircraft remained at Farnborough throughout the war, serving as a reference standard. When the Focke-Wulf Dora appeared in late 1944, its changes were immediately understood. After the war, historians measured the impact. Captain Eric Brown later wrote that Faber's error gave the Allies the Rosetta Stone of German fighter design. One aircraft, delivered by mistake, saved countless lives. Armin Faber spent the rest of the war in captivity in Canada, surviving to return home in 1976. His story remains a lasting lesson in warfare. Technology matters, but intelligence matters more. One navigational error transformed a secret weapon into an open book. And in the skies over Europe, that single mistake helped change the course of the war.